Hello, and welcome to the week 1 recap here on the 11th Man podcast. My name is JJ Matthews, and I am your host today. On today's show, we will go through and recap every single game from week 1 starting Thursday and ending with the Monday night game that just happened a few minutes ago, depending on when you're watching this. And I'm also going to give my top 5 power rankings at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. We're going to start with the Thursday night game, the Bills and the Rams. The one takeaway that I have from this game is that I think that the Bills are the best team in the NFL. It's hard to say that coming from a Chiefs fan, but the Bills look amazing in that second half. You could tell that the kinks of it being the first game and then playing a really good team in the Rams were in the first half. Josh Allen threw a couple of picks, but come out of halftime, Josh Allen looked like that guy. Josh Allen looked like he had something to prove, and he came out and he dominated the Rams defense. He had Jalen Ramsey looking like an average cornerback, and we all know Jalen Ramsey is arguably the best cornerback in the league, and he had Jalen Ramsey looking terrible, and his rushing ability just adds so much more. He's probably got the biggest arm in the league, right? And then you add the fact that at any given moment, he can give you the stiff arm of a lifetime. Like, Josh Allen looked really good. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball for the Bills, they look really good in the second half too. A team that just went to the Super Bowl, holding them to 10 points, 0 points in the second half is kind of amazing. Cooper Kupp, of course, did what Cooper Kupp had to do. Cooper Kupp had a great game, but for the Bills to be able to hold the Rams to that low of a score and have Matthew Stafford out there looking confused, picked off Matthew Stafford, great interception in the second half. And when I seen that, I knew the game was over. The Bills just look like the better team. The Bills really look like the best team in the NFL. Can't wait for that Week 5 matchup when they match up against the Chiefs. Moving on to Sunday, let's go through the 11 o'clock games. I couldn't watch every single game, but I'm just going to go off the highlights I saw, the stats, and I did rewatch a few of those games. We're going to start with the Saints and the Falcons. Didn't really look too much into this game. I saw that the Saints won on the game-winning field goal, which is good for them. I think that if the Saints are going to try to compete in the NFC South, they're not. This is a division game. Division games are always tough, but they're going to need to win these games. Like, they won this game, but I'm going to need them to win more convincingly. The Buccaneers didn't look too great last night either against the Cowboys, but if the Saints want to compete in the NFC South and try and dethrone the Buccaneers, they're going to need to play better. And on the side of the Falcons, not going to talk too much, but for them to stay in this game with the Saints with a really, really good team with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, that's pretty impressive. Next game I did watch pretty much the entire game, the Bears and the 49ers. Real sloppy game, rain, the field was flooded. I'm pretty sure that was the first 15-yard penalty I've ever seen for someone trying to pat the field dry. I'd never seen that before. But the 49ers really kind of crapped the bed. The 49ers let this game slip away. Second half, big interception from Trey Lance. Just really couldn't find any way to move the ball. It was a really sloppy game. Final score was 19-10. Justin Fields played great game managing in that second half. All he did was not mess up, which is really what the Bears needed him to do, and he didn't mess up. He didn't play too good in the first half, but come the second half, he made some pretty clutch throws. The first touchdown, being able to find and make that throw. And then on the second one, a great dart to Esquinez St. Brown. And the Bears really held on. I didn't expect them to do it, but if the Bears are going to have this kind of condition in Chicago whenever they play, and they're able to adjust and their defense play as good as they did, the Bears might be a little scary team to look out for later in the season. Game of the week, in my opinion, even though I was kind of upset that CBS showed it over the Chiefs game. The Steelers and the Bengals had the game of the week, in my opinion. Great game. The Steelers actually looked really, really good for a while. Mitchell Trubisky didn't look too bad. I didn't expect him to come out and be able to battle with Joe Burrow, but Joe Burrow played terrible. I'm going to talk more about that in a bit, but let's talk about the Steelers at first. First off, I want to say heart goes out to TJ Watt. Torn pectoral muscle. I know that's extremely painful. We're still waiting to see if he's going to have surgery. Hope he won't have to, but that would be a big loss for the Steelers. The Steelers look like one of the best defenses in the league last night. And it just got me thinking. Like, I went into my fantasy league, and the Steelers' defense was just sitting in free agency, and I was like, really? And they're a 12-person league, and then I watched them play, and I was like, wow, why is this defense so slept on at this point? The Steelers' defense has been very, very, very good over the past couple of years, especially with T.J. Watt playing the way he did, and Minka Fitzpatrick on the back end looking like one of the best safeties in the league. They had Joe Burrow shook in his boots. 4 interceptions for Joe Burrow. That's just not like him. And a lot of them were his fault, too. They were just bad balls and great coverage by the Steelers, which just really not like Joe Burrow. I'm going to talk about the kicking in this game as well. This game should prove to you why that you need a kicker, a holder, and a long snapper to hold up for you. The Cincinnati Bengals should have won this game. Actually, let me not say that because they had 5 turnovers. You don't deserve to win any game with 5 turnovers. But at the very end of regulation, 20-20, Evan McPherson shanks the extra point. It gets blocked by Minka Fitzpatrick. The long snapper's backup tight end for the Bengals. Long snapper was injured this week, so they have the backup tight end. And it just shows you how important special teams can be in a football game. Into overtime, we have McPherson shank a 29-yard field goal. We have Boswell wear one off of the crossbar. And it finally comes down to the last play of the game, and the Steelers win the game off of a field goal. And then the kicking woes, I tell you, they're prominent in the league right now. There was a few kicks missed. Harrison Butker missed most of the game. They had Justin Reed kicking field goals for the Chiefs, and I'm just like, we really need to make sure that these kickers are okay and that they know what they're doing because they can be the key winners or loser to a game. But moving on to the Bengals, Joe Burrow's got to do better. I know he missed a chunk of training camp with the appendix injury, but coming off a guy who just led his team to the Super Bowl, I did not expect him to perform like this in their opener against the Steelers. The Steelers, like I said earlier, have a really good defense, but Joe Burrow to throw 4 interceptions, it's kind of bad. I'm kind of worried for them. They have a pretty tough schedule. I know they have to play the AFC West. But I just think that if Joe Burrow continues to play like this, they're not going to find themselves anywhere near the Super Bowl, let alone the playoffs. Jamar Chase played really good. Jamar Chase looked like a top 5 receiver, like I've been saying. Jamar Chase is really, really good. He made 2 great catches. The first one didn't count. He said it was out of bounds. But the touchdown to put the game into overtime, that was an amazing catch, amazing route ran on that little speed out there. But the connection between Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow might be the best in the NFL. The chemistry that those two guys have is absolutely crazy. No matter how many times Jamar drops a pass, no many times Joe Burrow overthrows a ball, those two are going to be in sync. I say the Steelers are going to be okay. The Bengals, I'm not going to hit the panic button on them yet, but if Joe Burrow is going to continuously have games where he's turning the ball over like this, they need to watch out. Next game actually ended up pretty close. I watched some of this game. It really wasn't as close as the score seemed. The Lions made a late comeback, but it really was an Eagles game. It was 38-35. A.J. Brown looked like an amazing wide receiver. Looked borderline top 5. That first half, he went amazing. And I paid attention to this game a lot because Jalen Hurts, my fantasy quarterback, so I was checking in this game a lot. I wasn't able to watch the full thing, but what I saw was that Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have an amazing connection. They have one of these connections like they've been playing together for a while, almost like Jamar and Joe Burrow. Take that with a grain of salt, but these two are going to be an amazing duo for a long time. I think that the Eagles have found their guy at quarterback. Jalen Hurts is very, very, very underrated in the aspect of his deep ball, his throws across the middle. And when you have a receiver like A.J. Brown who can catch a 5-yard out and after the catch turn it into a 20-yard gain, that's the kind of guy you need for someone who has seemed to lack a bit of confidence early on in his career in Jalen Hurts. The Lions, man, on that side, they played really good for a team who was like won 3 games last year. The Lions played the Eagles very well. I expect the Eagles to win their division, especially with Prescott going down. Going to talk about that later. For them to only lose by 3, the Lions didn't look too bad. Next game, the Dolphins and the Patriots. Didn't watch any of this game, I'm going to be honest. I don't even think I saw all the highlights of this game, so I'm not going to talk too much about it except for the fact that Tua looked good. He looked very, very accurate. Tyreek Hill looked good in a Dolphins uniform. Sucks to say that, but it went for 94 yards. Jalen Waddle had an amazing touchdown. I did see that, and it really looked like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle have the ability to maybe be the best receiver duo in the league when it comes down to it. Because that speed that they have, there's no way to plan for that. Unless you have some amazing DBs, which I can't think of a room who has the speed to match up with those guys, they're going to be a nightmare for defensive coordinators for the rest of however long they're playing together. Next game, the Ravens and the Jets. Also did not watch a lick of this game. Really should have, because it's really important to see how Lamar is playing. After he decided to not sign his extension with the Ravens, betting on himself, Lamar's play this year is going to be so important. If he plays good, he's going to line himself up for a $265 million contract with most of it guaranteed. Even if that's not by the Ravens, this is one of the most important years, if not the most important year for Lamar Jackson's career, and the fact that if he craps the bed and plays like an average quarterback, he's not going to get paid what he wants, and even if that's not with the Ravens. But if he shows out like we know he can do, he's going to get a bag in the offseason. When I mean a bag, he might become the highest paid quarterback in the NFL. Next 11 o'clock game, the Commanders and the Jaguars. I watched a little bit of this game. Wanted to check in on Terry McLaurin is on my fantasy team. I saw that crazy touchdown he had. But one thing I want to talk about is Jahan Dotson. Jahan Dotson had 2 touchdowns, including the game winner, and he looked really, really good with Carson Wentz. Jahan Dotson was one of the most slept-on wide receivers in this class. He was drafted really, really early on by the Commanders, which they saw something in them that not a lot of teams did. A lot of teams projected him in their draft boards, late second, early third-round picks. I saw a lot of analyzers say that he's not going to be as good. In the first game, man plays in the NFL, 2 touchdowns with a game winner. Looked really good. Not going to talk too much about the Jaguars. The Jaguars are going to be bad again. Trayvon Walker did look good. He had an amazing sack and then an amazing athletic interception. But the Jaguars are going to be bad. We know that. Browns and Panthers. Browns come away with the dub in this one. Baker loses his revenge game on the Browns. It was a really good game, actually. Kareem Hunt had a great game. This is going to be really important for him to have a great season as well. You know, he's looking for more money. He requested the trade out of Cleveland, and they basically say you're not good enough to request a trade and completely just declined it. So it's going to be a big season for him. Nick Chubb is still one of the best running backs in the league, and the Browns are going to be okay. I know I projected them pretty bad without Deshaun Watson, but the Browns are going to be okay. The Colts and the Texans ended in a tie. Now, this was a really, really confusing game. I have Jonathan Taylor in both of my fantasy leagues, so I was definitely paying attention a lot to this game. So I looked up. It was 20-3, and Jonathan Taylor hadn't really gotten going yet. Then I checked back up. It was 20-20 going into overtime, and Jonathan Taylor had like 160 yards and a touchdown. And I was like, oh, okay. And this game ended in a tie. That ties. If the Colts want to compete in the AFC, they cannot tie with teams like the Texans. The AFC is too stacked if you want to compete for a playoff seed if you're going to tie with the Texans. Their best bet is to win their division because I don't see a way that they slip into the wild card tying to teams like the Texans. I know it's early. It's only week 1. But these are games that you have to win. These are gimme games. Moving on to the 2:25 hour of game, we're going to start with the Giants and the Titans. Didn't watch much of this game. All I know is that Saquon Barkley went absolutely bananas. When I mean bananas, he went bananas. He still proved that he's still one of the best running backs in the league. I've been saying this for a while. Saquon is still that guy. Saquon has just not had the offensive line to keep him upright. Derrick Henry has consistently had one of the best offensive lines in the league. So has Nick Chubb. Saquon Barkley has been playing with the worst offensive line in the entire NFL since his rookie year. And this week, he showed that even with the trash offensive line, he's still that guy. He's had a lot to prove. He missed all of 2 years ago with the torn ACL, missed a chunk of last year with the bad ankle injury, and everyone just assumed that he was washed. Saquon is still a very, very young player, and I'm tired of seeing the comparisons to Zeke. He's better than Zeke. He's more athletic, and yesterday he showed that he can still be that guy. He still is that guy. On the other hand, the Titans, you could definitely tell that they missed A.J. Brown. Ryan Tannehill already was not that good of a quarterback. He was relying a lot on Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. Derrick Henry opened up the little play actions where he could find the slant to A.J. Brown, and A.J. Brown had the ability to take it 85 to the house. That's what Ryan Tannehill was relying on a lot. And they drafted Treylon Burks to try and take that position, but you can't really rely on a rookie wide receiver to replace a guy who was bringing that much production to you. And you can see that. No, the Giants do not have the best defense in the NFL, and they just shut them down. The Titans didn't look too good. The Giants' defense is okay at best, but the Titans on offense looked awful. Only scoring, 20 points against the Giants? Like, if they want a shot to compete in the AFC at all, I mean, they were the 1 seed last year, but if they want a shot to compete in the AFC at all for maybe even a playoff spot, they've got to do better. The last takeaway from these two games, from the last four, is it the Colts, Texans, Titans, and I haven't talked about the who's the other AFC South team? Who is the other AFC South team? The Jaguars. Yeah, we talked about them too. My bad for that. But the AFC South is terrible. They might be the worst division in the entire NFL. If any of those teams win that division, I mean, I'm expecting the Colts to do something and win that division, but they're not going to make any noise in the playoffs, in my opinion. I don't think that they have the firepower in any team to go into the playoffs in this deep AFC and make any noise. But moving on to the next 225 game, I watched a lot of this game, surprisingly. The Vikings destroyed the Packers. The score was only 23-7, but that does not describe how one-sided this game was. First thing I'm going to talk about is Justin Jefferson. I've been saying this forever. Justin Jefferson is the best wide receiver in the NFL. You can't tell me otherwise. There's no receiver who does what he does, brings the production that he does. Yes, Devontae Adams is really, really good, but I think that Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league, and he proved that yesterday. 9 catches, 184 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, come on, man. He had, 150 and 2 touchdowns in the first half? Like, and the Green Bay Packers have one of the best secondaries in the league. Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander. He was making these guys look like scrubs. Like, there were times I couldn't even say it was scheme. It was just, he was just wide open on the second touchdown pass. He caught it, and there was no one within a 20-yard radius of him. He caught it and looked around because he was like, wait, where is everybody? He's just a rare combination of speed and size and route running. I think he has the best release in the game. You go watch a video of him. He's so good at getting the DB to flip his hips, and his change of direction is absolutely amazing. If you watch it, the post corner routes that this man runs, it's like a DB has no chance to keep up with him. His hips are so smooth and fluid. His footwork is so immaculate. It's just I know it sounds like I'm riding him a little bit, but I needed to get this off my chest. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in the league. And when it comes to his hands, I don't think right now with D-Hop being out, I don't think there's a receiver with better hands than him. If it's in a radius, he's going to go get it, which is hard and which is crazy because he's only, 6'1", 6'2". He's just a rare talent at the receiver position. He has a chance to go down as one of the greatest receivers in NFL history. And right now, he's my leader for Offensive Player of the Year. Now we're going to talk about the Packers, man. Who is Aaron Rodgers going to throw to? I've been saying that for a while. People were judging the Chiefs on who the Chiefs were going to throw to and everything like that, who is Aaron Rodgers going to throw to? When your number one receiver is Randall Cobb, your number two is Sammy Watkins, and you're relying on a receiver in Christian Watson, who hasn't proved anything in the NFL, to be one of your number one weapons, it's going to be a tough year. They got to rely a lot on A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones because the passing game is not going to be there as much as it was. Devontae Adams was the biggest crutch in the NFL, in my opinion, for a quarterback. Without Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers, we know he's not an average quarterback, but without Devontae, he looked really, really, really average yesterday. He was taking hits. We hadn't seen him take hit like we've never seen it before. He threw an interception, which is just unheard of for Aaron Rodgers. And it was just like a heave throw, like a desperation throw that we haven't seen from someone like him before. And it kind of shook me because Aaron Rodgers really doesn't do that. The Vikings have a pretty good defense, pretty good secondary, and their front seven is amazing up there with Zadarius Smith and Danielle Hunter. But this is why I predicted this earlier. The Vikings are going to win the NFC North. After yesterday, I think they're by far the best team in that division. There's no team that's really close or even looked close. And as long as Justin Jefferson continues to play the way he plays, the Vikings are going to be one of the best teams in the NFC, if not the best team in the NFC. Next, the Raiders and Chargers. Unfortunately, even though it was a great game, did not watch much of it because the Chiefs were playing. But from what I did see, Devontae Adams looks like he has transferred right over and fits right in with that Raiders team. I think he went for, 141 and a touchdown? Like 10 catches? I saw a stat that said he had, more receiving yards than the entire Packers receiving room yesterday, which kind of made me chuckle a little bit. But Derek Carr and Devontae Adams kind of have one of those Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase kind of connections. If they can get their timing down with their other receivers and they can get Waller involved more, man, that offense is going to be crazy. They lost this game, but the Raiders are going to be a very, very scary team in the future. Talk about the Chargers. We all knew the Chargers were going to be a very, very, very good team. Came out very tough week one. Found a way to survive. Khalil Mack looked amazing. Had 3 sacks and a forced fumble. That looks like Raiders Khalil Mack or early Chicago Bears Khalil Mack, which is going to be really, really scary for the rest of the league. If the Chargers continue to play the way they played yesterday with that pass rush, and they will be getting J.C. Jackson back. If it's not Thursday against the Chiefs, it'll be the week after. With him in the back end and him being one of the best ball hawk corners in the league, man, the Chargers' defense is going to be scary. And let's not forget they have that monster at quarterback in Justin Herbert and those receivers and Mike Williams and Keenan Allen to catch for him. Austin Eckler had a quiet day, but Austin Eckler is one of the best running backs in the league when it comes to catching the ball out of the backfield. So the Chargers are going to be scary, but we all knew that. Last 225 game, the game that I really watched the most of. I missed most of the first quarter because of CBS, and then missed the last drive of the fourth quarter because CBS switched over to the Chargers-Raiders game. The Chiefs looked amazing. And I know I'm a homer or whatever, I'm biased or everything, but the Chiefs look like a top 2 team in the NFL. The defense looked good. We gave up 21 points, but 2 of those touchdowns were really late. At one point, it was 37-7. We didn't force any turnovers, but we forced Murray into a lot of bad throws. That's something I realized. We have a very, very young secondary. L'Jarius Sneed is only in his 3rd or 4th year. Trent McDuffie's a rookie. Jalen Watson is a rookie. Joshua Williams is a rookie. Justin Reed, this is his 1st year with us. Juan Thornhill, he's young. He's only in his 4th year, but he missed an entire season with a torn Achilles. We have a very, very young secondary, but they held up very well. I know it's not much of a test. The Cardinals' receiving room without DeAndre Hopkins isn't as well as some of the ones we're going to face later down the line, but the Chiefs' defense looked very, very strong. They did very, very good at keeping Kyler Murray in the pocket. There were possessions where Kyler Murray was stuck in the pocket and just coverage sacks. And speaking of sacks, that's something else I wanted to talk about. The Chiefs' defensive line about 4 or 5 weeks ago was the weakest part of our team. We lacked age at edge rusher. We were starting Frank Clark and George Karlaftis. Chris Jones didn't really have anyone in the interior with him besides Derek Nottie. But the signing of Carlos Dunlap might be the most underrated free agency pickup the season. Carlos Dunlap is going to provide so much veteran leadership in this D-line room, and he's also a very, very streaky pass rusher. He had a sack today on Kyler Murray, who's a great athletic play by him, which shows that the age really didn't matter to him. He played really, really well in the few snaps that he did have. Chris Jones didn't have any sacks, but he did have an amazing forced fumble, even though the Cardinals recovered it. But if the Chiefs' defensive line can continuously get pressure and force quarterbacks into bad throws like they did today, it's going to make the DB's job so much easier. And like I said, we have a very, very young DB room. And if our defensive line can continuously get pressure on quarterbacks, and this is probably going to be the best quarterback we face at exiting the pocket. And if we can continuously get pressure on quarterbacks, keep them in the pocket, force them into dumb throws, our defense is going to be fine. And also, let's not forget, I think the Chiefs have a top 10 linebacker in Nick Bolton. His ability to come up and make tackles in the backfield is just amazing. He shows that night in and night out. Every time we play, Nick Bolton is always around the ball. He's one of those players where he will find the football, whether he's recovering a fumble, forcing a fumble, he's in on a gang tackle, if he's got a solo tackle on a running back. He's really, really good at finding the football, and that's what I think the Chiefs defense need for a leader. Didn't even talk about the offense yet, but let's get into that. Patrick Mahomes is still the best quarterback in the NFL. I know people are talking about Josh Allen in the game he had. There was no quarterback performance better than Patrick Mahomes this week. He went for 30 for 39, 365 yards, and 5 passing touchdowns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 passing touchdowns. To all different receivers, too. Let me think. Yeah, all different receivers as well. I think 9 people caught a pass this year. Just like Mahomes has been saying all offseason, it's going to look different. We're not going to have the big highlight 75-yard touchdowns. It's going to be slow, long drives, picking apart the defenses, and that's exactly what happened on Sunday afternoon. Mahomes did great at staying in the pocket. There were times where he went out and played scramble drill, but I've never seen Mahomes stay in the pocket for this long. Make sure he's moving with the pocket, stepping up and delivering throws. We looked very, very, very good on third down. I think we went 5 for 7 on third down. The Chiefs' offense just looked amazing. Clyde Edwards-Helaire scored 2 touchdowns. Excuse me, I said everyone had 1, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire had 2 receiving touchdowns, and that's great for him. If we can continue to get him in the passing game, it's going to open up so much more. Rookie running back Isaiah Pacheco had 62 yards and a touchdown, and I've been saying to everyone that he's going to be a star in this league, and he's just going to keep showing why I think he has the potential to be one of the best running backs in the league, and half of you probably don't even know who he is. But the Chiefs have a very, very tough game on Thursday night, and we're going to see if this translates over. The Cardinals don't have the best defense in the league, but they have a very passable defense. Budda Baker's one of the best safeties in the league. Byron Murphy was pretty banged up throughout the game, but he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. I know J.J. Watt didn't play, but they still have a pretty decent pass rush. But the Chiefs look very, very good. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say that this one game is the reason why we're going to go win the Super Bowl, but I'm saying you better watch out for us. Sunday Night Football, man. Really, I don't want to talk about this game too much. It really is not much to say except it was a really sloppy game. I know the Cowboys fans are going to say, we would have won if Dak didn't go down. No. You look terrible with Dak. The Cowboys' weapons are just awful, man. Without CeeDee Lamb, they're like The Buccaneers were literally just taking away CeeDee Lamb and saying, throw it to someone else. We dare you. And what did they do? They didn't throw it to anyone else. No, they didn't. CeeDee Lamb is one of the best receivers in the league. Yes, we know that. But other than that, I don't think the Cowboys have a weapon that they legitimately trust to catch the ball. Michael Gallup is hurt. Even if he does come back, he's like not going to be 100%. And teams are still keyed in on CeeDee Lamb. And without Dak for the next 6 to 8 weeks, they're going to struggle. They're going to struggle bad, and I mean that. And final game of the weekend, the Broncos and the Seahawks. Man, I'm excited to talk about this game. And, I live in Denver, Colorado, and I'm surrounded by Broncos fans. So I've been hearing ever since the trade happened how the Denver Broncos are going out and going to be the best team in the entire NFL. They're going to the Super Bowl. They said all we were missing was a quarterback. And man, what happens the first time Russell Wilson steps foot on a field in a Denver Broncos uniform? They lose to the Seattle Seahawks. Not saying Russ played a bad game. Russ actually played a pretty good game, especially for someone who didn't play in the preseason. First game with these new receivers. Building chemistry is very, very hard. They got to do better, though. Russell Wilson, I think he had a little bit over 300 yards, 1 touchdown pass to Judy. That was a great play, by the way. But the Seahawks played them very, very well. They did a great job at any time they had the ball chewing the clock. They were chewing the clock the entire game. They said if Russ doesn't have the ball, Russ can't beat us. And they did a great job at that. Rashad Penny looked very good. I think he's going to be a very, very good running back this year. His burst out of the break is amazing. Right after he gets to that hole, he makes his one cut. His burst is amazing. DK did fumble once. He did have some very strong catches, though. Very, very strong catches. Patrick Surtain didn't look too good. I know he gave up a couple of passes. He had a pass interference as well. And for him to be the future at cornerback for them, he's supposed to be their number one shutdown guy. He did not look as good as Bronco fans have hyped him up to be. His coverage skills, yes, are amazing, but there are some plays on the ball that I wish that, as my number one corner, I want you to go make that play. I want you to swat that ball. I want you to go get an interception. And there are times where he's relying on, like, a big hit to get rid of the ball. No, I want you to go make a play on that football. The huge third down catch to DK, I want him to play through that ball if you're really my number one cornerback and you're supposed to be one of the best corners in the entire NFL. But one thing I have to say, we should not overreact to this game. The Broncos are still going to be a very, very good team. It's going to take time for Russ to get chemistry. That's why I definitely think he should have played a lot more in the preseason. He didn't play at all. Like, with a new set of receivers and you being a new quarterback, new system, all of this, he should have played at least a couple series in the preseason, and that came back to bite him. There were a couple of times in the second half, they had 2 delayed game penalties, which came with not knowing who was supposed to be where. They didn't have the chemistry on the field. Also, on Javonte Williams' fumble in the end zone, the second one that he had, no, Melvin Gordon had the first one. The first one that Williams had, just everyone was out of position. It didn't seem like they knew the snap count or anything. Snapped the ball. No one blocked, and Javonte Williams got the ball punched out. Seattle takes over. Speaking of that, Denver's red zone offense has to be so much better. I know it'll get better throughout the season once Russ gets more connection with the receivers, but their red zone defense was red zone offense was terrible. There's no way that you have the ball 3 times inside the 5-yard line and you only come away with 3 points. Especially with the running backs that they have. Javonte Williams, there's no way that you should fumble like that. Melvin Gordon, one of them should have punched it in at least once. They went 0 for 3 inside the 5-yard line. Inside the 5-yard line 3 times and only came away with 3 points. That can't happen. Because they're going to come up against one of these AFC West teams, right? Like the Chiefs or the Chargers. They're going to get stopped inside the 4-yard line. That happens, they're going to go score 3 times. They're going to be down 21 points. The Chiefs and the Chargers are going to capitalize on those mistakes. The Seahawks did it pretty well today, but not to the extent that I think these AFC West teams are going to be. The AFC West is so tough. The teams are so good. You need to win games like this. I know they're going to say it's week 1, but this game is going to be extremely important going down the stretch, especially pushing for a playoff. With how tight the AFC race is going to be for the wild card, this one loss can come back to bite the Broncos in the butt. They lose the playoffs by one game. They're going to look right back at this game against the Seattle Seahawks in week 1 when they were inside the 5-yard line 3 times, 3 chances to score touchdowns, and a chance on 4th and 5 to give their all-pro quarterback a chance to make a play and get them deeper into field goal range. They're going to look back at this game and say, what the heck happened? On the Seahawks side of it, though, they look pretty good. I'm pretty sure I predicted the Seahawks to go 1-16, and I'm kind of biting that prediction. I definitely believe that they are going to be better than that at this point in time. Especially, they look very good. Geno Smith looked like a competent quarterback. He didn't look like no superstar or anything, but he looked like a manageable starting quarterback in the NFL. And if they can do that, especially with their red zone defense playing the way they play today, and if they can get DK and Tyler Lockett involved a little more, the Seahawks not going to say they're going to make the playoffs, but they're a team that can win a few games this year. And that's all of week 1, but now allow me to give my top 5 teams in the league at this very moment. At number 5, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings look very, very good. Like I said earlier, Justin Jefferson keeps playing the way he played. I promise you they're going to be the best team in the entire NFC North and possibly the entire NFC. At number 4, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers looked all right. They played pretty sloppy. They played against a very, very injured Dallas Cowboys team who is not going to be very good anyway. But Tom Brady's still that guy. He made some amazing throws. The throw to Mike Evans in the end zone was just amazing. He still shows why at 45 years old he can still play in this league at a very, very high level. And the Buccaneers defense gave up 3 points to a team that led the NFL in offense last year. The Buccaneers are really good. Really, really good. At number 3, I have the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers played really, really good against the Raiders. They played a very, very tough game. Justin Herbert looked amazing. The defense looked amazing. I know they're going to get better throughout the season, and they have a marquee matchup this early in the season on Thursday against the Chiefs. Speaking of the Chiefs, at number 2 on my list for Week 1 power ranking goes to those Kansas City Chiefs. They look like, honestly, the second best team in the NFL. I know they played the Cardinals. The Cardinals are a playoff team from last year, but we know that without DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt, they're not as good as it can be. I don't care. The Chiefs look like an amazing football team. Patrick Mahomes, 365, 5 touchdowns. We already talked about it, but the Chiefs looked really, really good. And with that being said, at number 1, I have the Buffalo Bills. The beating that they put on the defending Super Bowl champions is all you need to know and why they're at number 1 on my list. And thank you for listening to Week 1 recap of the NFL season here at the 11th Man Podcast. I will see you next week, and peace.